why he fucking stopped to shoot.
Other software that you may will come up with my stream key right here. I also have a video on that. Your encoder is set up. Now, obviously, you got to go into OBS or XSplit and set up your scene like I have here with your webcam and your desktop and whatever your audio may be. You got to do all of that in your streaming software and make sure that's ready to go. So once you've set up your encoding software, you then want to move on to adding the information for your stream. So as you see here, earlier, or a couple days ago, I streamed some Hearthstone, playing some Hearthstone, and I titled it, Heroes of the Storm. It was Hearthstone, but it then changed to Heroes of the Storm. I put playing Heroes of the Storm, come down and change, been saved. Now, the VOD, whatever you want to call it, and then after that you can upload it to YouTube. So you can make the archive of the video private when complete, or if you uncheck this, it'll automatically upload to your subscribers for them to watch at a later date as a VOD. So that's under the stream options. Then monetization, you can monetize it with ads. I've already shown you that. And then you can add a card just like you can. You can add an associated website, fan funding. You can do all of that directly on your stream app here within YouTube. Now, last thing I want to show you is you can add thumbnails just like you do here. So go to change thumbnail, add you a nice little thumbnail like I did here. And then you obviously have chat. You can link to get more viewers or more, kind of give you some options on what you can do to fix that. And the last thing you can do is share it on social media sites down. That is, it is in. Always, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. Don't forget to slap that like button.
Hooked up with Tenenbaum, huh, kid? She's a regular mother goose. Alright, fun's fun, kid. But now, go get stepped on by a big daddy. Would you kindly? Huh? I says, would you kindly go get stepped on by a big daddy? Seems like Mother Goose has been playing around in your egg salad. If you won't dance to that tune, I got others. Code Yellow. I just told your brain to tell your heart to stop beating. Not right off the bat, mind you. The heart's a stubborn muscle, but it ain't that stubborn.
Once you are free of Fontaine's control, then you can have your revenge. And we can keep my little ones
why he fucking stopped to shoot.
Other software that you may will come up with my stream key right here. I also have a video on that. Your encoder is set up. Now, obviously, you got to go into OBS or XSplit and set up your scene like I have here with your webcam and your desktop and whatever your audio may be. You got to do all of that in your streaming software and make sure that's ready to go. So once you've set up your encoding software, you then want to move on to adding the information for your stream. So as you see here, earlier or a couple days ago, I streamed some Hearthstone, playing some Hearthstone, and I titled it, Heroes of the Storm. It was Hearthstone, but it then changed to Heroes of the Storm. I put playing Heroes of the Storm, come down and change, been saved. Now, the VOD, whatever you want to call it, and then after that you can upload it to YouTube. So you can make the archive of the video private when complete, or if you uncheck this, it'll automatically upload to your subscribers for them to watch at a later date as a VOD. So that's under the stream options. Then monetization, you can monetize it with ads. I've already shown you that. And then you can add a card just like you can. You can add an associated website, fan funding. You can do all of that directly on your stream app here within YouTube. Now, last thing I want to show you is you can add thumbnails just like you do here. So go to change thumbnail, add you a nice little thumbnail like I did here. And then you obviously have chat. You can to get more viewers or more, kind of give you some options on what you can do to fix that. And the last thing you can do is share it on social media sites down. That is in. Always, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. Don't forget to slap that like button.
You...
That Tenenbaum ain't what you think. Florence Nightingale, huh? That'll all come crashing down before you can say canned tomatoes. I've seen good bunco, and I've seen great bunco. But when you waltz through Rapture and World War II without even a scratch, you got more than leprechauns watching over you.
I'm a success. I'm a fucking success.
Fontaine's become some kind of boogeyman in Rapture. That myth gives him power. But peel back Flim Flam and a humbug, he's just another con man. And like all con men, he worries he'll end up on the wrong side of grift. That's why he commissioned a Lot 192. The antidote to the mental control plasmid. Fontaine said I better not tell anybody about the antidote. Not even Tenenbaum. And Suchong is inclined to listen.
I knew there was something to that. Always secrets when with Suchong, always. He must have his Lot 192 in his labs near Apollo Square. I once stole a dose and brought it back to my flat on the second floor, but those apes would have taken it back to Fontaine's penthouse
It's just a
upstairs.
bad quarter. No, that's
I
all.
never knew what Lot
Yeah, Mark
192
will
was
come
for,
back, huh?
but
Yeah, everything
if
all right.
Suchong was doing something in secret, on this I keep my eye.
I don't like this any more than you do, kid. But you gotta understand where I'm coming from. I got 12 years down here. Big investment. Man can't walk away from a long con like that.
It's a great. That dream's gonna happen.
Looks like things have gone busto between Fontaine and his little German beanpole. Why a guy like Fontaine would waste his time with that spooky crowd when he could be getting the gravy from any dish he chooses is beyond the understanding of this paparazzi. Even reset the door code to 5744. sure that beanpole don't sprout up in his yard again.
Put out where I... Nothing left but nothing. I'm top dog.
Look at my home, torn apart by Fontaine and his pigs. No doubt he had the samples of Lot 192 taken to his penthouse. Entrance is in lobby, but the damn thing is always locked. You will not believe me, but there was a time when this place was all so beautiful.
What do you take me for? Some kind of mental incompetent? We tossed Mother Goose's roost the moment she decided to grow a conscience. You won't find nothing here, kid, except maybe her memories. And trust me on this, you don't want 'em.
Hey there, fellas. You know that 9 out of 10 ladies prefer the other? Athletic man? What?
Seems like Mother Goose has been playing around in your egg salad.
Fontaine's become some kind of boogeyman in Rapture. That myth gives him power. But peel back Flim Flam and Humbug, he's just another con man. And like all con men, he worries he'll end up on the wrong side of grift. That's why he commissioned a lot of 192. The antidote to the mental control plasmid. Fontaine said I better not tell anybody about the antidote. Not even Tenenbaum. And Suchong is inclined to listen.
Kills me to turn my fist to you, but business is business. Don't let it get you down. Won't make a difference when this whole place is fish food.
things have gone busto between Fontaine and his little German beanpole. Why a guy like Fontaine would waste his time with that spooky crowd when he could be getting the gravy from any dish he chooses is beyond the understanding of this paparazzi. Even reset the door code to 5744. Maybe to be double sure that beanpole don't sprout up in his yard again.
They say to save one life is to save the world entire. I made a place for the children here, but it is you who are their savior. Will you stop here, or will you deliver them from this terrible city at long last?
Why he fucking stopped to shoot.
Software that you may will come up with my stream key right here. I also have a video on that. Your encoder is set up. Now, obviously, you got to go into OBS or XSplit and set up your scene like I have here with your webcam and your desktop and whatever your audio may be. You got to do all of that in your streaming software and make sure that's ready to go. So once you've set up your encoding software, you then want to move on to adding the information for your stream. So as you see here, earlier, or a couple days ago, I streamed some Hearthstone, playing some Hearthstone, and I titled it, Heroes of the Storm. It was Hearthstone, but it then changed to Heroes of the Storm. I put playing Heroes of the Storm, come down and change, been saved. Now, the VOD, whatever you want to call it, and then after that you can upload it to YouTube. So you can make the archive of the video private when complete, or if you uncheck this, it'll automatically upload to your subscribers for them to watch at a later date as a VOD. So that's under the stream options. Then monetization, you can monetize it with ads. I've already shown you that. And then you can add a card just like you can. You can add an associated website, fan funding. You can do all of that directly on your stream app here within YouTube. Now, last thing I want to show you is you can add thumbnails just like you do here. So go to change thumbnail, add you a nice little thumbnail like I did here. And then you obviously have chat. You can to get more viewers or more, kind of give you some options on what you can do to fix that. And the last thing you can do is share it on social media sites down. That is in. Always, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. Don't forget to slap that like button.
have known you would need a larger dosage. You will have to locate another dosage to fully remove the effect.
Good. Now go find Suchong's lab in Artemis Suite. In there, no doubt there will be more of this Lot 192.
Who's there? Who said that? They're making it worse for yourself.
Too dangerous to re-engineer your plasmids in the state of payment. You'll just have to make do with what you have.
You want more? All right. somebody finish it, so it could be of use to someone. It just didn't seem right to leave it lying there, all by itself.
Hey there, fellas. You know that 9 out of 10...
I was so angry when I came down here, but my God, I had no idea. There's armed men all over the place. I saw a woman climb over the fence trying to escape. One of Ryan's guards pointed at her and she lit on fire. Just like that. What's happening here? cute. The gorillas at the gate to let me in. It's awful in here. To my right, I can see a dead woman lying in the street. Everybody just walking by her like she was there. But I noticed something spray painted everywhere. Atlas lives. I don't know what it means, but something tells me it's important to these people.
Now you are having freedom. Suchong's drugs should have no hold on you. Take the bathysphere to Point Prometheus. It is time for this matter to be settled.
Clinical trial protector system, plasmid lot 255. Dr. Suchong, client Ryan Industries. Very frustrating day. I can't seem to get the damn big daddies to imprint on the little brats. The protection bond is just not forming.
Papa Suchong?
Get away. Maybe if I modify the genetic sequence... Shush! Sure! The sequence to allow for... Get away, you filthy little shit! What? What are you doing? Get back! Get back!
I really do for these little ones. I am tainted by sins. But you, perhaps you unlock a future for them that I cannot even imagine. A little one heads your way with a gift. Please be careful.
What's that? Out. Never mind, Dorothy.
Bienvenido a la moda. Bienvenido a la modanito. Muchas gracias, señor. Topside, and more at him than you can possibly imagine.
iconic and haunting, the Big Daddy and Little Sisters of Bioshock immediately captivated the public's imagination. Big Daddy encounters defined the Bioshock experience, creating new mechanics and techniques that had not been seen before in gaming. So Big Daddy, Little Sister, such an iconic moment or series of moments in this game. I'm fascinated about how that got layered in, because we talked a lot about the setting and the tone. That is still, to me, a mechanic that I remember was very unique about, choosing to engage the Big Daddy and being a fight that is going to be very aggressive and different than, traditional boss fight. I know you had an idea, Ken, of sort of 3 different types of AIs interacting in the same world.
Yeah, we were sort of like I was trying to think of like AIs you hadn't seen before, and this is still pretty early. Like 10 years ago, a lot's changed in 10 years. So like AIs were still pretty much enemies who saw you and came after you.
Zigzag, shoot.
Yep, and then that was really the focus, is how you make them, use AI better at you. So I started thinking about, are there more primal behaviors to think about? And I was watching a nature show one day, these typical nature shows, and it's like observe the mother tiger taking care of her young, one of those kind of things. And I realized that we don't even need a narrator on those shows. We understand certain behaviors just by looking at them. They're very primal, like somebody protecting their young, the predator-prey behavior. Those things were you don't need dialogue for that. And AIs at that point, we didn't have the ability to do a lot of sort of, smart AI. Yeah. So I said, what if their behaviors are just very primal, and we can model those behaviors? So aggro rules is something we knew we can model, right? How does an AI aggro on you? What are the rules for that? Could they make a aggression display rather than just attack? And can another character appear afraid and hide behind the skirts of another character? And we started talking about these things. And the Big Daddy became very quickly, the actual form of the Big Daddy came very quickly as sort of this protector creature. The Little Sister took a lot longer, ironically, even though it's a much simpler notion in a lot of ways. The initial idea came out of sort of watching a nature show, and we're trying to work within our constraints of we couldn't make super complex AIs.
Because when we first got the system up and running, this is before the play test, we weren't really thinking about player facing these things. And we had this entire system set up that completely simulated what would happen, and you'd play through the vertical slice and you walk into a room and everybody's dead because the system would work perfectly. And you weren't there to see the fight. Yeah.
And we track they weren't called Little Sisters at the time, but we track how much they were harvesting, and it was all like a Command and Conquer level simulation.
Yeah.
And players didn't care or notice.
Yep.
And so we just abandoned all that stuff.
Yeah, so that took us a step towards, how do we present this to the player, then how do we make the gatherers, which we called them at the time before Little Sister design came on, like how do we make them empathetic towards the player, how do we make the player want to engage with that, because at the time they were just slugs.
Right.
So which is a horrible design.
Originally were slugs, right?
Yeah.
Not actually.
Which is a horrible design in so many ways, because you don't care about slugs, and they're also on the ground, so you don't see them. They're not like at eye level, and they're dark. So
but you still have something. We still the trailer had like the same, or not the trailer, the demo. our prototype we did, so had the Big Daddy sort of like interacting with the little
Yeah.
slug.
How,
And
slugs crawl around the Big Daddy? Or
no,
what?
it's this awful
That's a
little
level of
mesh.
sophistication. Yeah.
It's like a little beetle, sort of.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It was terrible.
yeah.
And they were protecting.
And they had
Protecting the beetles.
the beetles. What?
And,
Really?
and
the
it
Big
was
Daddies
so
had two drills. They didn't have a hand, so they could. There's no way they could
Right.
like.
It's just fascinating because like the little sister, it's like there's such humanity in it, which really you really connect with.
You
Which
would,
seems like
you would
a
think
smart
that would
thing
be
to
the,
go
the
straight
obvious thing.
to.
Yeah.
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 We're not very smart.
The idea of sort of choosing to engage the Big Daddy. I mean, when I was first time I played the game, I mean that was always profound because you sort of sit there and like, am I ready for this? Am I ready? And your choice to sort of like, you know, the kind of opposite of stealth, like when you want to be discovered. Was that always the mechanic with the Big Daddy?
Yeah, that was, the idea was that they would have very particular rules about engaging with you that were entirely dependent on how you, the threat level towards, not them, towards their creature they were protecting.
Yeah, that was set. And then as you worked through it, I'm sure there were conversations about how difficult do we make these fights and sort of the balancing of that. And even, you know, with the game, you don't start off with a Big Daddy fight. It's a little ways into the game until you actually get to that. So was that was sure debated?
You actually encounter the notion of Big Daddy and Little Sister many times before you actually are freed into an arena where you can actually fight them. You see them
sneaking out, pipes.
You see them. You see them walking down a hall. You see the first time you see Little Sister, she's harvesting, and then you see the Big Daddy come and protect her. And we realized it was 4 or 5 sequences we had to do to set the stage for these characters. And look, we were hoping they'd be iconic and people would respond to the way they did, because we certainly spent energy on them with the expectation that they'd have an impact that we really just as easily could have turned out that nobody cared.
I think the actual very first time, and not a lot of people see it, there's a Little Sister in the vent in Kashmir restaurant that if you're looking in the right direction at the right time, you'll see her looking at you, and then she'll disappear into the vent.
It's the eyes.
No, it's the actual mesh.
Is it the mesh?
Because it was easier to do that
right.
than new eyes, but yeah.
No! Thank you.
The path of the righteous is not always easy.
The thing as you play through the game, you know, I think the moments with those sort of encounters certainly stand out to the player. For you guys, as you were developing it, was there a debate about how often to sort of have those encounters? Like, you know, like how many Big Daddies would there be? How would that play out? I mean, was that something that sort of changed as you?
No, I think we decided there would be 3. I think it was 3 per level.
So 3 and 2 in smaller levels. We did have a third Big Daddy that was mostly finished, but we couldn't make it fun. Like that last 10% of an AI is always like, where's the fun? Like, how do you really make
they put it into I think they put it into Bioshock too, didn't they?
They might have, yeah.
They might have. I don't know.
But you know, it was fully rigged, fully animated, but we just didn't have the time we needed to really polish it. So we ended up shipping with the bouncer and Rosie.
Hunting the Big Daddy, that demo was a huge moment, I think, in the game's kind of marketing campaign. And that really, I think, you know, sold the tension of that battle. When you showed that, did the entire game feel like that, or was that really more of just like a vertical slice of what you wanted the game to feel like?
That at that point was more what we wanted to feel like, because the Big Daddy was still had a lot of problems at that point. But we were confident we could do that. Like, we want to make sure that was an experience we could deliver on. And it was like it functioned, but it would do really weird things. Like, it had this tendency at the time to, if you did the wrong thing, that it would turn into basically a super ball and start like a tiny little super ball. The Big Daddy would turn to a super ball and start bouncing off the ceiling and walls like a million miles an hour. Do you remember why you did that, or what was going on?
I'm sure it was some physics bug that
And so that actually happened. Sometimes we were doing the demo, and Joe Falstick, who was the guy running the demo with me in Barcelona, was very good at making sure that he turned away from the Big Daddy. Like, oh yeah, I guess we killed the Big Daddy. He must be dying over there. But so all things were functional, but they weren't really. They didn't have all their bells and whistles on yet. It was really good for us because it sort of gave us some confidence that people would respond to just the notion of, you know, watching Little Sister and biding your time and choosing your moment.
Well, it gave us confidence, but also gave us a tool that the development team as a whole could gather around and say, we want to make it like this. Like, yes, a lot of elements in that demo were scripted, but they provided a framework for us to go back and how do we make that so it's not scripted? How do we make this robust enough so that the player can actually use these systems?
Yep.
So it was something that we could point to and say, you know, all right, how are we going to do this? Like, let's break it down and let's figure it out.
Yeah, and that was like in September, and actually the game was done in February. March, so we weren't that far off.
Yeah.
We were a lot went into it in those final months, but it was a big confidence boost for us because we thought it was the most important thing about the game, besides the world, was this sort of big daddy little sister concept. And if people didn't care about it, it would have been a problem for us because we spent a lot of time on it.
Slug it out? I'm game. But I got all the Adam in the city, pal, and I ain't shy about you. Now, I'm Jake to take her out for a spin.
What is this you wait for? Go and get this idiot!
There's a fish tank.
Shut! You let him get away. Oh, I need a moment for thinking. Of course. This will be no problem. Find a big daddy and search his body. I would suggest you to be finding a dead one. You see the suit's control system? So good, get it. That is step one of turning you into one of those disgusting big daddies. The only way to get through that door Fontaine went through is to have a little one open it for you. And they will only trust you if you look like, sound like, and even smell like one of those big stinking brutes. think you're going? You need to become a big daddy before you are able to draw out the little ones.
Ignore the lies of Atlas and his parasites. Rapture is on the rise. The parasites need 3 things.
We bred little ones to increase the surface smell. Pheromones. This is not like putting on extra shade. You'll need 3 industrial applications of this stuff, and then the little ones will be drawn to you like a beating heart. You will have to gather 3 pheromones here, so that you smell disgusting. Just like a big daddy.
I don't know why he fucking stopped to shoot.
Software that you may will come up with my stream key right here. I also have a video on that. Your encoder is set up. Now, obviously, you got to go into OBS or XSplit and set up your scene like I have here with your webcam and your desktop and whatever your audio may be. You got to do all of that in your streaming software and make sure that's ready to go. So once you've set up your encoding software, you then want to move on to adding the information for your stream. So as you see here, earlier, or a couple days ago, I streamed some Hearthstone, playing some Hearthstone, and I titled it, Heroes of the Storm. It was Hearthstone, but it then changed to Heroes of the Storm. I put playing Heroes of the Storm, come down and change, been saved. Now, the VOD, whatever you want to call it, and then after that you can upload it to YouTube. So you can make the archive of the video private when complete, or if you uncheck this, it'll automatically upload to your subscribers for them to watch at a later date as a VOD. So that's under the stream options. Then monetization, you can monetize it with ads. I've already shown you that. And then you can add a card just like you can. You can add an associated website, fan funding. You can do all of that directly on your stream app here within YouTube. Now, last thing I'm going to show you is you can add thumbnails just like you do here. So go to change thumbnail, add you a nice little thumbnail like I did here. And then you obviously have chat. You can to get more viewers or more, kind of give you some options on what you can do to fix that. And the last thing you can do is share it on social media sites down. That is in. Always, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. Don't forget to slap that like button.
Shame you could not do the same thing to an adult. There would be quite a market for a man you could not kill.
kill, excuse me, to harvest or not to harvest, the moral dilemma that follows you throughout the Bioshock experience and defines the fate of the player. This choice lays at the center of your Bioshock story and has repercussions that can be felt in nearly every facet of the gameplay. Part of Bioshock's lasting legacy, of course, are the Little Sisters and this moral choice that presented itself to the player. Everyone became a water cooler conversation about, like, well, did you save them? Did you harvest them? That concept, Ken, was that something that came about early in development, or that binary choice? When did that come into the game?
I don't remember when. I mean, we had the concept of them being protected, but I can't remember when you actually
certainly
chose.
wasn't. When there were slugs, it was not meaningful. I think there was.
Do you salt it? Do you not salt it?
There were resources that you could get, but there was no choice there, right? The choice was, do I want to fight the Big Daddy or not?
Yeah.
I think once we got into the realm of they have to be empathetic, the player has to have some feeling towards them, which you're not going to get from slugs. Right. Then we start seeing that opportunity there of, like, okay, nobody's going to want to do harm to these girls, or do they? Like, and do we allow them to? It was we weren't comfortable with it at first when it first came up that we could.
I think it was important that it was a way to reflect the sort of larger economic questions of a world like Rapture, where, like, where the economy drives everything. Are there any limits to economic decision making versus moral decision? Making, because that's sort of what the Randian notion is that it's not the role that you don't sort of legislate morality. Let's try to take that to an extreme and see where that ends up. And Little Sisters sort of became that. And in this world, they became a commodity. And the question we have for the players, are you willing, they're a commodity to you as well, potentially. Are you willing to participate in the commodification? There was, I think, a fair amount of nervousness internally at the publisher about it for a little while, but pretty quickly they were able to sort of say, look, we trust you guys, and go, do this. And I only had a few, the press, and this sort of happens over and over again. The games press worried a ton about it and, like, would wring their hands about it. They ever recognized it was a setting topic, but that it was done to a larger purpose, that it wasn't just sort of like, hey, this is the game where you kill children. And
whatever, and that was a sensitivity. I know that, like, you guys wanted to call them Little Sisters, not little girls, and it was and it wasn't, it wasn't killing them, it was harvesting them. And I mean, you did some things probably on purpose, right, to sort of explain that this, you weren't doing anything vicious to them, right?
Well, I mean, they do sort of disappear out of you, and a big slug out of their belly, comes up that you. Well, we didn't want that to be graphic. We wanted to be very clear that you were killing.
Gruesome. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it was not intended to be a prurient in terms of, hey, this is a simulation of pulling a sea slug out of a little girl's belly. But we wanted you to understand that you were making a very diabolical moral economic pact there. And we think that came across, and I think it came across well enough. And I think the test of how well it came across is, I think most people didn't really thought of it as am I willing to do this thing or not?
Right.
And people would tell us stories how, like, their girlfriend saw them harvesting, and then they literally slept on the couch that night.
Right.
And that's an interesting, that was interesting how people connected to a 3D mesh that's really no different than any other 3D mesh in the world. Like, this little sister, she's not a person. She's a 3D asset, a virtual 3D asset, right? That has a voice actor connected to it, who's an adult woman, and nobody was actually getting harmed, but people still emotionally connected to them and made an emotional connection.
And also, I think when you're playing, you don't really know what the impact of that choice is.
Yes.
And that's sort of the curiosity of, like, you're a gamer, so it's like, am I going to game the system? Which one should I pick? How does this impact things as you go through the game? It's never really fully clear what that choice is going to lead to, right? And the ambiguousness of that was something you wanted to sort of create mystery around throughout the game?
Yeah, we went back and forth a lot about what the rewards for harvesting versus saving would be, and actually I think we should have really pushed further that the rewards for saving were should have been much more meager than the rewards for harvesting, just to really sort of put you up against the wall, push you up against the wall and say, you know, are you going to stick by your moral guns here? Because you're going to pay for it. Because that's usually the way life is, right? It's always harder to take a moral path than it is to take an amoral path. But there's incentives to take amoral paths because it's the easier path.
As you play through the game, eventually you get to the ending, and as we know now, there were sort of two endings that were affected by that choice. And that was something at the time, I know you said publicly that you weren't in favor of sort of having two endings. Was that in part because, the game is about not having choice, or did you think that, the two endings were, I don't know, like, I'm interested for narratively, like, why you didn't want to go that path?
It seemed forced, given that the game really sort of almost made a joke, a meta commentary joke about the lack of agency in games, the lack of meaning of those choices, given that you have these two endings. I guess you could make an argument that, well, you were free, you were given choice of once Ryan's dead, and that's really what it's about. But I think we also didn't really have enough time to execute on those super well. I was pretty happy with how the happier one came out, with the sort of little sister focus, but it's a much more subtle story than I would have time to tell about your slow descent into, moral chaos and dissolute living and all the things that sort of come along with a life that is sort of separate from a moral structure. It's a long story.
And so, you were just switching a cutscene. It wasn't like you were doing sort of a whole other level that was different or something. So the choice was...
There's two cutscenes with very tight time and economic
Or
constraints.
just start a nuclear war.
Yes. And that's not...
You're a nice guy, or you start a nuclear war.
And because we had so many problems on our plate, that was something I had to sort of do in the spare time. So I was pretty happy with one, but not very happy with the other.
I know you had said publicly before that there was another sort of more ambiguous ending that you had originally planned, or what would you have done?
There was a notion of an ambiguous ending, which if I just wrote one, I would have found a way that would just talk about the moral ambiguity of the world rather than the sort of, positive or negative, because it is such a, look, I think we really tried with Bioshock not to sort of make a game about good and evil. It's really about circumstances and what circumstances lead people to. And how they delude themselves with ideology to do things that they would think are evil, but it's okay because it's for the good cause. And that's what I probably would have. If I just had one to write, I'd probably focus more on that. How difficult it is to sort of align when you start being driven by ideology rather than being in the moment and thinking about the impact of what you're doing.
Sean, you talked to gamers, I'm sure, over the years. Did you ever get a sense of how many people harvested versus saved, and was there any sort of data? I mean, this is before the days where you get telemetry and data on like what people picked and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, it seems like more people saving Little Sisters. Although, I have a few friends that were. I just harvested every single one. I wanted to see what happened. So I don't know if that was more, the game developer and them trying to see, what would happen, but certainly for the most part, I think most people. Which I guess is a good thing. It means that maybe people are good at heart. They kind of feel bad. They want they want to save the Little Sisters. So, yeah, I'll say it. The needle sways towards the green there.
Time for bed-bye, Mr. B. Hurry, hurry, Mr. Bubbles. Mama's here. You're acting like a...
Now you need only to find the bodysuit and the voice box from the other labs, and you will be a proper brute. Get moving.
Thank you for helping me.
Andrew Ryan. I'm playing a bad hand, kid. You're just too spiced to smell it. Roll on back to Mother Goose now, or everything's gonna go busto.
A rapture reminder. We all have some.
Here is where you'll be finding the voice box to have sound like one of those big daddies, repulsive creatures.
Fontaine is dead. Bad for Fontaine. Good for Suchong. Play hard to get for a bit. Then Mr. Ryan get hungry for me. Tenenbaum gone, Fontaine gone. Suchong only one who know all about little sister. Like I said, it is very good for Suchong.
Welcome to the Circus of Value.
Once Big Daddy is ready, nobody cross the Big Daddy.
You saved me.
Turning yourself into one of those tin men is a two-way street. The crowd's holding auditions for the Frankenstein parade, and you're first in line.
Look at you. We will make Big Daddy out of you yet, I think. But there's only one piece missing. The bodysuit. Go to fail-safe armored escort.
No, I'm not
Has Mother Goose really got her hooks into you? You can knock Ryan all you want, but the old man was bingo on one point of fact. You won't even walk till somebody says go. Look around you, kid. You think two-bit heroics count for a fig in this pit? You're staring down the puke stain of Ryan's busted dream. You think there's something worth saving down here? Then you deserve to gargle with the rest of these scrubs.
I'll admit Fontaine showed some foresight when he built up the plasmid business. But the man really never understood sales. Hiding those little girls beneath a bushel. I've just seen the preliminary design work on the new plasmid machines, and they're exactly what I wanted. Mark my words, presented properly, those little sisters are marketing gold.
place here is where they build their filthy golems and Frankensteins. Find the pieces of the suit. Buy them.
Need to be shipped here, not a damn library. What kind of idiot is Ryan hiring nowadays? This kind of bullshit never happened on the Fontaine.
It is a wounded world.
Thank you.
How can I thank you for this kindness? I send another little one with a token of our appreciation.
Could I have made mistakes? One does not build cities if one is guided by doubt. But can one govern in absolute certainty? I know that my beliefs have elevated me just as I know that the things I have rejected would have destroyed me. But the city, it's collapsing before my... Have I become so convinced by my own beliefs that I have stopped seeing the truth? Perhaps. But Atlas is out there, and he aims to destroy me and to destroy my city. To question is to surrender. I will not question.
War a terrible thing. Japanese kill every man in my city, except for Suchong. Suchong have opium. Very good opium. This war, terrible thing too, but not for Suchong. Everyone's scared now. Everyone need Adam. More than little sisters can make.
This is where you find bodysuit.
You know, you should be thanking me. I brought you here. I showed you who you are. Nobody never told you nothing but lies till I come along.
This is where you find bodysuit.
War a terrible thing. Japanese kill every man in my city, except for Suchong. Suchong have opium. Very good opium. This war, terrible thing too, but not for Suchong. Everyone's scared now. Everyone need Adam. More than little sisters can make. Good news is war makes lots of corpses. Suchong knows a way to recycle Adam from corpses, but can't send a little sister out to street unprotected. Suchong must think on this.
Wunderbar. All you need now is helmet.
I didn't mean to hurt anyone!
Welcome to the circus of value. Feel your cravings at the circus of value.
Fontaine's scary son of a bitch, but Ryan cheap son of a bitch. You can no reuse protector suit. Take a man, graft the skin and organs straight in the suit. Otherwise, your suit will not work. Ryan say Big Daddy too expensive. Ryan can go suck an egg. scary son of a bitch. But Ryan, cheap son of a bitch. War a terrible thing.
Could I have made mistakes? One does not build...
God damn it. The big that...
I'll admit Fontaine showed some foresight with...
Ryan sent over extra munitions. He must suspect trouble. I will lock them up near the protector labs and set the code to 1921. I don't expect we'll ever be needing them, though. Once Big Daddy is ready, nobody cross the Big Daddy.
I can now!
Atlas is a friend of the parasite. Don't be a friend of Atlas.
big, terrible stink. Very smelly. Maybe something can be done. But the little sisters seem to like the odor. Now we have to find the recruits. You become Big Daddy, it's a one-way street. But Ryan says don't worry. Recruits will be no problem. That Ryan. He's a good guy.
I'd turn tail if I were you, kid. Ain't nothing here for you but tears.
Yes. Now this is a Big Daddy. Are you ready? Now go to the Little Sister vent by the proving grounds.
I've got Rapture now. I've got the Atom now. You think that tin suit's even half enough to put the scare in me?
I'm not a bad person! You're always sneezing. Come on! I just want to talk for something.
You need to bring them out of hiding and then they'll let you in the door. Go on, hit the vent with your wrench. Und bitte. It would mean very much to me if you will be gentle with the girl. Mein kleines Mädchen. The little ones will lead you to Fontaine, but you must protect them.
That's it, kid. It's a long road. You don't even remember most of it. Put you on a sub when you were just a sprout.
Hurry, Mr. Bubbles. Time to go, Mr. B. Hurry, Mr. B. Amy, dancing in the sky.
Even though they are physically free of the need together, Chung's mental conditioning still holds them to their terrible past. For sins such as this can never atone.
Hurry, Mr. B. Angel, dancing in the sky. Hurry, hurry, Mr. Bubbles. Hop, hop, Mr. B. No time to waste.
Watch out! Processing the heartbeat will draw the attention of this driver.
Hurry, Mr. B. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpoke. Unzip him, Mr. B! Unzip him! Hurry! Hurry!
Rapture reminder. You all have
time to go.
break curfew. Take a little extra.
Mr. B.
Stay on the level.
Angel. Dancing Don't be Angels don't wait for slowpoke. Hurry, Mr. B.
Hurry! The harvesting will draw the attention of the splicers.
Hurry, Mr. B. Angels are waiting for our kisses. Dancing in the sky. I'm a good girl, Mr. B. Adam, Mr. B. Hurry, hurry, Mr. Bubbles. Time to go, Mr. B. Hop, hop, Mr. B. No time to waste. Angels don't wait for slowpokes. Hurry, hurry, Mr. Bubbles.
Better for the girls to be with you. Better with you than alone. Alone in the crawling darkness.
Hurry, Mr. B. I can see the angels dancing in the sky. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait for slowpokes.
That might be plenty for the working scrubs and the pencil pushers, but I need more. More! I want a slice! And right now,
Fontaine is nearby. You are reaching close.
Time to go, Mr. B. Going to pray about Mr. B. Don't be a slowpoke, Mr. B. Angels don't wait.
There! You must use the needle of the little sister to drain Fontaine of his Adam. It is the only way to defeat him.
Here, take this. Stick it in the bag, man.
Fontaine waits above. There will be no going back from here. Make sure you are ready to face him before moving on.
Welcome to the Circus of Value. Tell your friends.
sub. You were no more than 2. You were my ace in the hole, but you were also the closest thing I ever had to a son. And that's why this hurts. Betrayal, kid. Life ain't strictly business.
With the needle!
Come on now, kid. You want to get serious? Come again! I'll put you down! I'm barely getting started. Come again! You think I'm alone in this world? I got more than enough mugs to watch my back while I recharge. had you built. I sent you topside. I called you back, showed you what you was capable of. Even that life you thought you had, that was something I dreamed up and had tattooed inside your head. Now, if you don't call that family, I don't know what is. And now...
They offered you this city. And you refused it. And what did you do instead? What I've come to expect of you. You saved them. You gave them the one thing that was stolen from them. A chance. A chance to learn. To find love. To live. And in the end, what was your reward? You never said. But I think I know. A family.